Missing person cases often start with more questions than answers. But what happens when the person reporting the disappearance becomes the center of the investigation? This is the story of Aspen Lewis, a vibrant young woman whose life tragically ended in mystery, betrayal, and violence. It began as a missing person report, filed by someone who should have been her biggest protector, her boyfriend, Malone. But as investigators dug deeper, their initial concern turned into suspicion, leading to a chilling discovery that would shake an entire community. Today we're uncovering the twists and turns in a case that started with hope but ended in heartbreak. What led a seemingly loving boyfriend from searching for Aspen to becoming the prime suspect in her murder? And why did his story change so drastically? Missing person one moment, and a grim confession the next. This case raises unsettling questions about trust, violence, and the chilling lengths some will go to cover their tracks. Stay tuned as we explore the shocking timeline, the forensic breakthroughs, and the haunting truths behind the tragic loss of Aspen Lewis. A young Missouri mother vanished without a trace, leaving her family and friends desperate for answers. When her boyfriend reported her missing, the police were met with a chilling scene: a large bloodstain on the road outside her home. What began as a missing person investigation quickly spiraled into a murder case, as the very person who had sounded the alarm would later lead authorities to her lifeless body. This is the story of 24-year-old Aspen Lewis, a devoted mother from Exeter, Missouri, a small, close-knit town less than 20 miles from the Arkansas border. Aspen was deeply proud of her role as a mother to her young son, Remington. On social media, she frequently shared heartwarming pictures and posts celebrating her life as a parent, referring to herself as "Mommy to my sweet baby boy." Her posts also prominently featured Malone, a 23-year-old whom Aspen had publicly listed as her boyfriend on Facebook. Her profile picture showcased a smiling image of the couple together, a snapshot of what seemed like a happy relationship. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. On Monday, November 25th, Malone contacted the Berry County Sheriff's Office to report Aspen missing. He suggested she may have been abducted, telling investigators that he last saw her at her home in the early hours of that morning. His concern seemed genuine at first, prompting law enforcement officers to take immediate action. However, the scene at Aspen's home raised alarm bells. Investigators discovered broken pieces of her jewelry near her truck, which suggested there had been a struggle. Most disturbingly, a large bloodstain was found in the roadway outside. When the Missouri State Highway Patrol tested the blood, it was confirmed to be human. These findings shifted the investigation from a simple missing person case to a more ominous one, pointing to foul play. At the outset, Malone appeared cooperative. He provided a written statement and willingly participated in interviews. Yet, as investigators delved deeper, inconsistencies in his account began to emerge. His version of events didn't align with evidence gathered at the scene or with surveillance footage from the area. The footage revealed critical details. Malone had arrived at Aspen's house late on the night of Sunday, November 24th, and shortly after, screams could be heard. By 1:30 a.m. on November 25th, Malone was seen leaving the house. Curiously, he returned around 4 a.m., but had already made a 911 call reporting Aspen missing before arriving back at the property. When investigators began looking into the disappearance of 24-year-old Aspen Lewis, they quickly realized this was more than a typical missing person case. Their focus naturally shifted to the person who reported her missing, her boyfriend, Malone. His initial claim raised an essential question: was he simply a concerned partner or potentially involved in her disappearance? It's a familiar pattern in investigations involving close relationships, where law enforcement often zeroes in on the person closest to the victim. A well-known investigative maxim comes to mind: the husband, or, in this case, the boyfriend, always did it. While this isn't a definitive rule, it reflects the frequency with which intimate partners are implicated in cases involving harm to loved ones. Law enforcement doesn't assume guilt, but rather starts by examining the relationship dynamics between the victim and the person reporting them missing. They aim to uncover whether there was any prior tension, violence, or instability within the relationship that could provide insight into the victim's disappearance. Public portrayals, such as social media photos of smiling couples, often contrast with the reality behind closed doors. Investigators look beyond these surface appearances to identify patterns of control, manipulation, or abuse. Did Aspen and Aaron have a history of arguments? Were there reports or rumors of domestic violence? Did those close to Aspen notice any changes in her behavior or voice concerns about the relationship? These questions become critical to understanding whether Aspen's disappearance could be linked to a broader, ongoing issue between the two. In Aaron Malone's case, red flags began to emerge almost immediately. After reporting Aspen missing, his cooperation with authorities initially seemed genuine, but inconsistencies in his accounts raised serious concerns. He told different versions of events to various officers, making it difficult to pin down an accurate timeline of what had happened. This type of behavior is a significant warning sign for investigators, as it suggests potential deception or an attempt to obscure critical details. Moreover, surveillance footage near Aspen's home revealed troubling evidence. It showed Aaron arriving at her residence on the night of November 24th, followed by what appeared to be sounds of distress. The footage also showed him leaving in the early hours of November 25th and returning later that morning. Most concerning, however, was the fact that Aaron placed a 911 call to report Aspen missing before he had even returned to her house. This peculiar decision raised an obvious question: how could he know she was missing unless something had already happened? This timeline of events prompted investigators to dig deeper into Aaron's actions and behavior, ultimately leading to his confession. He admitted that he and Aspen had argued in the early hours of November 25th, and then shockingly agreed to take law enforcement to her body. He led them to a wooded area where Aspen's remains were concealed under leaves and sticks. Her cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head, a clear indication of violent and intentional harm. For investigators, the question now shifted from what happened to why did this happen. The escalation from a seemingly loving relationship to such a horrific act of violence is a chilling reminder of how quickly situations can turn deadly. Examining Aaron's confession and the circumstances surrounding Aspen's death, law enforcement will focus on reconstructing the events leading up to the murder. Was there a history of controlling behavior on Aaron's part? Did Aspen express concerns about their relationship with her friends or family? Had there been prior incidents of physical or emotional abuse? These are the questions investigators will seek to answer to understand the full scope of what led to her tragic death. In many cases like this, intimate partners show warning signs long before violence occurs. Investigators will interview those who knew the couple to piece together whether Aaron had displayed troubling behavior in the past or if the murder stemmed from a sudden and unexpected escalation. Adding to the puzzle is the nature of Aaron's confession. His decision to lead authorities to Aspen's body without significant coercion is unusual and may indicate remorse or a desire to control the narrative. His willingness to cooperate in this way could provide investigators with valuable insight into his state of mind and the motive behind his actions. However, they'll also need to corroborate his account with forensic evidence and witness statements to ensure accuracy. Surveillance footage, phone records, and any potential recordings from inside the home will be scrutinized to piece together the precise sequence of events. Did Aspen try to call for help before the altercation? Did Aaron's story match the physical evidence, or were there additional inconsistencies that suggest premeditation? This case underscores the complexities investigators face when dealing with crimes involving intimate relationships. While social media photos of smiling couples may paint a picture of happiness, they rarely capture the full reality of a relationship. Often, underlying tensions or patterns of abuse remain hidden until a tragedy like this brings them to light. Understanding what led Aaron to commit such a heinous act will involve exploring his past behavior, identifying potential triggers for the violence, and uncovering any warning signs Aspen may have shared with those close to her. Ultimately, this is a heartbreaking case that serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist within seemingly loving relationships. For law enforcement, the goal is not only to secure justice for Aspen but also to learn from cases like these to better identify and prevent similar tragedies in the future.